well made and brilliant, like you. Good morning. Hello. Welcome to SJU. I am Roth, Cornet, and I'm so happy to be with these wonderful gentlemen today. Joe Starr is here.
Good morning.
Yeah, you're kind of like dressed up today with a collar and a sweater.
When it gets colder out, I try.
Do we have a business meeting?
Maybe I don't want to talk about it.
Okay, fair. Oh, jeez, I'll prepare myself. Spencer Gilbert.
I'm not talking to Billy today. I have no business.
Gilbert.
Hi, dress for the job you want, Roth.
Exactly. Schlub. Dan Murrell is
Dressing
here.
for the job I both want and have.
You're not feeling so good, so
I feel fine. This is completely preventative.
Okay.
As soon as I feel the slightest hint of anything, I blast my body with vitamins.
Good.
I like that.
As I'm doing today. I feel wonderful.
I like that the tonics are spreading, though.
Yeah.
What do you have?
I've got some matcha and almond milk.
He's got tea.
It's green, so you know it's good for you. I know that this is delightful and interesting to all of you that are watching us today, here to talk about Disney Plus already taking over the world, which we will get into. I just would request that you send some good health vibes to Dan in the office, because we have a no plague rule beginning in January. That's my resolution. Nobody gets sick. Disney
What
Plus. Well, have you seen Logan's Run? Disney Plus already valued over $100 billion. This is via CNBC and Barclays. So Disney Plus streaming business is already being valued by investors at more than $100 billion, according to an estimate from Barclays. Now, that includes not just Disney Plus, and that's what we want to get into when we dive into the numbers with Mr. Dan Murrell.
Yes.
So let's give the actual picture, because I think it's being taken out of context.
Yes. Disney Plus is not worth $100 billion alone. Basically, what they did is Barclays did this thing called a enterprise value, which is basically they look at a company, they look at the whole company, and they say, all right, here's the cash you got, here's the assets you got, here's your debt, whatever, and we come up with basically a value of your entire company. So they did that for Disney, $213 billion. They're like, okay, parks, movie studios, everything, not including streaming, that's worth $213 billion. So that left like $108 billion as the valuation for their streaming services, not just Disney Plus. Disney Plus, Hulu, and ESPN Plus together valued at just over $100 billion, which is about 70% of Netflix's estimated current value. So that's sort of where the gist of it is that I agree, it's being twisted a little bit. A lot of people are saying, or maybe misunderstood, a lot of people are saying like, oh my God, Disney Plus has been out for 3 months and it's already worth 70% of Netflix. That's not what this is saying. What it's saying,
also is worth 70% of what Netflix took 13 years to be valued at, is the big picture story that people are telling.
But this also includes Hulu, which also has been around for 13 years and was built not just by Disney, but acquired by Disney. So Disney acquired Hulu, which I'm sure I was looking at. That's got almost a $10 billion valuation by itself, and that was last year. So it's not that Disney Plus is so miraculously successful that it's already worth 70% of Netflix, but it does say that Disney, which is fairly new to the streaming game, through acquisition and launch of their own services, is now valued at 70%. Their streaming service is valued at 70% of what Netflix is valued at.
So let's break that down even a little bit more. So Disney has a market cap of $260 billion, while Netflix has a market cap of $144 billion, right? So that's what this report is saying. And they say that they continue to believe that Comcast and Netflix are the best positioned in the evolving ecosystem, which is interesting, and continue to provide great value. Let's break that down even further. You know, you talked about the strategy that Disney Plus, this is a combination of launching based on the backs of its brand that has been built over 100 years, but also through acquisitions. Well, that's why they acquired Fox. One of the main reasons that they acquired Fox was to enter the streaming race with very powerfully positioned Spencer Gilbert. Break that down for the people. Is that evil or smart?
Oh, it's fully evil, but no more or less evil than every other conglomerate that runs every facet of
evil.
Our lives. Yes, brilliant. I don't know. It's I guess it's a little bit underwear gnomesy, where it's like I thought that they were losing money and deficit spending, and like they were, because charging $7 a month for what
they are currently.
They are currently.
This is what they're valued at.
Yes.
And the same thing with Netflix, which is
also not profitable. Are they profitable yet?
I think not. They are still deficit spending.
Yeah. So I don't know how anything works. but
Amazon was deficit spending. They only became profitable with the cloud. That's
yeah,
when they became
Amazon
profitable.
again, and Amazon is putting every
And they got
business in the
rockets.
world out of business because they can, because their server or services
they're like they're just like Bezos is like mafia style with other businesses.
Yeah, so look, putting aside that we're all on the road to feudalism and we'll live in little Disney fiefdoms or Amazon fiefdoms. Yes, more turnips for you, my lord. They are unquestionably off to a great start because to be at 70% of Netflix, even with the bundle, like ESPN Plus, that doesn't count. No one has ESPN Plus. That thing's terrible. You have to sign in for ESPN Plus to find out like, some jerk-off's breakdown of the substitute NBA players for this game. No, there's nothing there worth watching.
Is that true? I mean, I've never been.
They're
on
starting
ESPN.
to try. They're trying to turn that into like their UFC, boxing, like trying to put things on ESPN Plus that somebody might want to sign up for to
ESPN
watch.
your
is
Lyft
also
driver will do that for
hemorrhaging
free.
cable subscribers.
Yeah.
So they also need a way to continue to have people watch ESPN programming, despite the fact that they are cutting cords.
But it's
And
not good. Like this.
I've had it a couple times. It's maybe the original programming is not good. I do enjoy the fact that I can watch sports.
But it does seem like of the sports that are there, it's like there's nothing you need to sign up for to watch, unless
Maybe
you're a big, I don't know, 4x4 rally racing fan or something like that. It's all the sports that aren't fit for ESPN or ABC.
Cornet up.
Game changer, sir.
Yeah.
Well, actually, I did honestly. I only perked up when you said UFC.
They've started that.
Yeah.
Like the new Conor McGregor fight is going to be on ESPN Plus.
Such an asshole.
I know. Don't you want to see him get hit?
I do,
Yeah.
and that's why I'll subscribe.
Yeah.
This is actually
You guys
this
just got tricked
episode
into
has
being
been-
wrestling fans.
If this was sponsored by ESPN, we would be like the ninjas of branded content right now. Like,
Yeah, we're easy marks. They've tricked us into. So I'm personally discounting ESPN Plus as like a big draw or a big part of their streaming effort. Now, clearly, they're moving forward by putting things you'd actually want to watch on there. But to have 70% of Netflix, even with just Hulu and Disney Plus, that's enormous.
it is enormous.
Well, it's because they bought everything.
They did,
When,
they did.
when you're looking at an
Yeah.
evaluation of a streaming service, it helps a lot when you have exclusive streaming rights to every Disney movie ever made. When you have exclusive streaming rights, more or less to every Marvel movie and every Star Wars movie and every Pixar movie and the Fox catalog. Yeah, that's a pretty
and not
pretty
just
good
the
evaluation.
acquisitions too, but I mean Netflix basically. I mean, they didn't invent streaming, but as a brand, Netflix had to sell to the public, we're no longer going to mail you things, or that's not going to be our primary business anymore. Instead, you're just going to stream them, and they had to sell the word. They had to
That's
sell
not a
binge
hard
watching.
sell because it's so much better than
They
having
did
to go.
invent-
To,
I mean, it was a hard sell at the time. It was like, it won't come to my mail. Well, Redbox for me, sir. Like it's taken them time to like establish this as a concept, whereas Disney can be after that house has been built, then Disney can just come in and go, we're going to build the same house, but with Star Wars.
Well, Netflix did. They invented this model, and they did it, I think, through a combination of, like, basically circumstance. What is it? Becomes the mother of invention. What's the mother of invention?
Necessity. Yeah.
So basically, this was innovation where they saw a hole in the marketplace. They were like, we can come in, and people are lazy. Blockbuster is underestimating how lazy people are, and we can just mail them stuff, and they'll take that over driving or walking to the store. And that ended up being true. And then they said, you know what, they'll take over that is if it just goes straight into their like silver box. That'll be great.
Yeah.
But that was innovation, right? And seeing a lack in the market. But then when the licenses started to get crazy, they made so much of their content based on television licenses, movie licenses. And when those started to get pulled back, they moved into television, and then they started creating their own content. So every model that other people are riffing on now was created by Netflix. So they do deserve the credit for that. It is interesting to think about what this will ultimately mean. I'm going to take us to a slightly different topic, but that is related because I just saw it on Twitter this morning, which was one of the roundtables. No, it's not. It's nothing crazy. It's not.
Anything I hear that
I
happened
know.
on Twitter makes me scared.
It was just. I agree. And normally I would never do that, but it was a clip from like one of the I think it was like one of the Hollywood Reporter roundtables. I'm a journalist, so I'm sourcing accurately. Not a journalist, so I don't have to. I'm on YouTube. Shouldn't be taking me seriously. So, I'm kidding.
Seriously, anyone genuine. I can upload a video right now. It's terrifying.
I can upload cats.
I can change our headline to something weird.
Yeah, do it. We have the power. So it was just a clip from one of those roundtables, and it was basically the director of the Farewell saying she had been offered a lot of money from Netflix, but went with A24 because she understood that Netflix they're not in the business of making money, right? So they're in the business of subscriber base. And so what they'll do is spend a lot around established filmmakers, and Scorsese was right next to her. So they'll do a lot around established filmmakers like Scorsese because that's actually helping lift their brand. But if you don't have one yet and you're a new filmmaker, they're actually not going to help you build it, and it'll probably just get buried. But A24 is motivated to push the Farewell,
right?
And that's what helps her build her own brand so that she gets to the point.
Otherwise, she gets dumped under Christmas Prince 4.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that helps her get to the point that she can be getting those Netflix dollars because she's got a brand that will help lift theirs. I thought it was really fascinating because as we look at these streaming services and as they evolve and really, really own so much of the market share, that theatrical experience, suddenly it throws into sharp relief. Things like A24 are really important for upcoming filmmakers. Dan,
yes.
Would you like to speak about this with the audience?
No, I agree. It's I don't know, at the risk of sounding like a broken record, but we're currently in the midst of the most radical shift in viewing habits since television, as far as patterns and behavior and how people watch things and when and where. Certainly if you wouldn't want to go that dramatic, since DVR. And yeah, I think that what we're going to see is in one of this weird serpentine path that we're on is stuff like that, where yes, streaming is a great opportunity for some filmmakers to get things made and you can get things out there. But at the same time, I think people are going to go to, especially now, the smaller ones, because the bigger ones are so wrapped up in streaming and their big thing. The smaller ones like Neon and A24, maybe Lionsgate, ones like that, they're going to go to them because they're like, well, I don't want to get buried now that everything's on streaming. Like, I want that kind of wine and dine thing, because yeah, The Farewell would have been the best movie sitting in your Netflix queue
that you didn't know about.
That at the end of the year we would have been doing our best ofs, and everyone's just like, did you see The Farewell? Oh my God, I haven't seen it yet. It's on Netflix. Oh, you should see it. It's so good. Awkwafina's so good in it. And I really do not think that it would be getting the kind of awards attention. Awkwafina won a Golden Globe. Yeah. It's an Oscar contender in a few different categories, and it's a really good movie. I don't think it would have gotten the same exposure on Netflix, because you're right. What's the draw other than, hey, this is a really good movie? Well, Netflix says that about every movie that they put out. And unless you're Scorsese and you can do a multi-million-dollar advertising campaign, which they probably would not have given them Farewell, then how do you break out? So I agree. The A24s of the world are going to have a very important part to play. Amazon actually is the one that's kind of been doing it the best, as far as kind of going back and forth between being a streaming provider that produces films, but also making sure that they're giving pushes to ones that they really think deserve it. Movies like The Big Sick and Honey Boy, amongst many others. The Aeronauts, they're actually, I think, of all of them, the one towing the line the best right now, as far as like not making it seem like a kind of theatrical is just something else we do. Like, they're actually giving a value to the theatrical experience and pushing them in a more traditional way, which I think helps with the awards right now.
But to your, go ahead.
Oh, so I was going to, on just to spin off on Amazon, having spent some time in the heartland over the holidays with people that don't do this and think about this at all times. Just you talking about Amazon Prime doing a really good job with pushing this stuff out. According to Parent Science, yes, they are. Because my folks who don't care about any of this can like deep cut Amazon Prime shows right now. Whereas
what do they like?
With my dad's a big Jack Ryan fan because he's my dad. They like Maisel because he's also my dad.
Yeah.
But as far as like Netflix and Disney Plus, they'll be like, yeah, we're gonna watch a Disney Plus thing with your niece and nephew or something. But with Amazon Prime, they we're going deep and like, oh, we checked out this and there's this there's a Honey Man and we're excited about them. So.
I don't even just mean with the Amazon Prime streaming. I feel like that with like movies like The Irishman and Roma, they were always a Netflix movie first and a streaming movie or a theatrical release second. You know, it's like, well, we have to put it in theaters, but it's a Netflix movie. Whereas I think Amazon has done a good job of promoting the films that they're distributing as a movie release first, like The Big Sick, and then
they
it'll
also
get.
did
And then
that with the The one you told me to watch with Mindy Kaling.
Late Night. Late Night, and Les Miserables, the French version which they're distributing, and like I said, Honey Boy. It is a movie release first that then goes to Amazon Prime. Like I think they're doing a good job of doing both.
They're doing a good impression of a traditional indie studio, which is just bizarre for.
It is for Bezos, right? Well, he's not the one running it. But I think the other thing about A24, though, circling back to this point of this idea of brand, is that Netflix has so much stuff. Like, sometimes I'm surprised because only so much shows up in your queue. But if you dig a little bit, it's just endless. You can really find kind of amazing gems there, too. But they have too much to properly promote everything, and so they place their bets with things, to your point, Dan, that they think, and to her point, that they think is going to lift their brand, that's going to bring in subscribers. And that's things like this. Look at this this kind of collaboration between these icons of cinema, and you can get it right here on Netflix. They're going to tout that pretty loudly, and rightfully so. But that said, an A24 is going to push really hard for Oscar films and contenders because they have this brand and this reputation of, I personally, if I see that it's an A24 movie, I will trust it. I will immediately go see it. Right?
Definitely.
The Lighthouse might have launched more memes if it was on Netflix, but I think it probably got a little more legitimacy being, a more traditional release. And
I'd meme that movie too, though.
Yeah.
Fart supercut. The Lighthouse.
There's so many farts. It was really like
you eat beans in a lighthouse. Willem Dafoe.
See how that goes for you. It's pretty interesting. Speaking of parent science and anecdotal information, there's a bunch of people that I've talked to recently about Disney Plus specifically, that once we started investigating it, it was just like, God, there's really actually not that much here. And then anecdotally, people have been tweeting, I'm canceling it until The Mandalorian comes back or until something comes.
That's why they're bumping up those series to 2020. Because even when they unveiled the slate and it looked so impressive, you take a closer look and you see the dates on there, and it's like two original series a year.
It's not enough.
That's not enough.
No.
Need 2 months.
Need more content in my content hole.
Well, there's more original series than just Star Wars and Marvel. The world, according to Jeff Goldblum, is delightful.
Yeah.
If I may just say.
But I wonder if
it is.
I know it is.
No, you're not. And Encore is so twisted and weird and dark, and I love it. If you haven't watched it,
right?
It's so
High School Musical,
brutally sad.
Senior.
But I wonder if those are enough to carry a business where everywhere else is just standing on major IPs, whereas like a Netflix, organically, something like Nailed It can really like come to the surface and succeed. But I don't know if like World According To and Encore and stuff like that can make a lot of noise.
Well, Disney's why they dominate movies is that their whole approach has been to make fewer movies, but just make them the biggest things on earth and have them go through 1,000 different layers of vetting, and
it worked last year,
and it does work.
Well, it worked financially a couple of times.
I mean, they've had an incredible 10-year run by cutting back on the types of films they make. That's not gonna work for streaming, I don't think.
It's not, which this is where I find it really interesting, and I would love to sit in a strategy meeting for their stream, because without the Fox acquisition and Hulu and ESPN, they wouldn't be positioned this well in streaming because they don't have a shit ton of content. I did it. I think I've done it 3 times this episode. Anyway, thank you. They don't have as much of a bulk of content as some of the other services. So it was interesting to me when they made the decision to make the actual Disney Plus service so refined. But now that we're looking at things like bundles, ultimately it makes a little more sense what their long-term play is. I do wonder what's happening in terms of FX, which now has 7 different channels, I think. I don't understand that strategy at all either.
It's all Hulu now.
It's all Hulu now, but so is that just where all of the good things live? Because
I think
I love
FX is like it's just like a channel within Hulu. Like it's just Hulu's the distribution. They're the Spotify, and FX is the record label. It's like I don't know. The analogies start to break down pretty quick. But
I wasn't following, I'll be honest.
I think that
Always Sunny is Taylor Swift.
Okay.
you probably won't be able. You probably won't be signing up for FX Plus rather, all those shows will show up on Hulu.
Which
They
is
have them.
perfect.
Yeah,
and they,
exactly.
FX Now.
yeah.
I know, right? FX Now, which
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, they have a
Okay.
thing.
Well, it doesn't make sense for them to have a thing, in my opinion. As
Yeah.
much as I love FX, it should go on Hulu. I just want FX to still exist because they make really interesting shows and shows that I love. But we'll see. We'll see where it all goes from now with every single service and channel trying to split off and make their own thing. There is a point at which, I've even talked to people that work for streaming services, and they acknowledge that it's too much and that eventually we'll need bigger bundles. And at that point, who does that? You know what I mean? Who becomes the cable service? Who does Disney allow to be the bundle them with something that isn't them? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's what I'm pretty curious about. Can you predict the future on that?
They'll just buy them.
Oh,
It'll be our
They'll
internet.
buy whomever they want to
Well,
get.
the step. I mean, they probably already do bundles that are Disney Plus, ESPN Plus, and Hulu.
Sure,
I
they
think
do.
you can buy those 3 at once. There's probably
Yeah.
a deal.
no, but I'm talking about bigger bundles.
Yeah, bigger.
Well, no,
I'm
yeah.
talking about bundling disparate companies. I'm talking about bundling Netflix with the Disney Plus bundle with whatever other thing that I want.
It'll probably be our
Mm-hmm.
internet service provider, and then you'll live in a neighborhood that can only watch certain things.
Okay.
The Netflix, Hulu, ESPN Plus is $12.99 a month. But yeah, there's
Okay.
a bundle.
Well, I mean that, but I'm
That's
talking
step one.
about like real bundles though of like things that are not because
Like you can get Peacock and CBS All Access
With Disney.
and Quibi.
Boy.
See, but
wow.
you would need to put. We should move on. But you would need to put. First of all, God damn it, Peacock, y'all. No,
Did you see those first ads for it?
Yeah,
They went literal. It's like a literal
I just
Peacock
like-
nest.
Something's
I just want to do a PSA to Universal. I'm like, you will not succeed. So figure out
associate-
another plan.
Peacock with NBC because
Yeah.
like I thought it was just like a rainbow, and now it's like all I see is Peacock.
No, yeah, you got
Well,
it.
because it
Well, no,
used
it's
to be
always
the
been a
Peacock.
I know it's always been a peacock, but you don't see the
go,
You don't see the
feathers
peacock.
and be like,
Yeah.
of course, the
Yeah.
traditional peacock that
Yeah.
means I'm
Yeah.
watching NBC.
Oh, yes, an extraordinarily unpleasant bird. Let's watch Friends.
But not only that, even in traditional networks, NBC lost their cachet like pretty much in the early after Friends, and so after must-see TV. So what? You're not like enter the modern era. Figure it out. God damn it! It's that one in particular is destined to, unless they go with that branding,
Yeah.
which I will subscribe to. Peacock. That I will subscribe to. Thank you guys so much for liking and subscribing this nonsense.
Streaming Wars needs
a lot.
annoyed.
It does.
Yeah. And the Peacock.
And the Peacock gets that annoyed. Thank you so much for liking and subscribing us. We like and subscribe to you back. Please do watch our things. Power Level Force vs. Magic is out. Spencer Level. Spencer Level.
Spencer Levels.
We have officially changed his name.
Spencer Levels.
Spencer Levels.
Billy Business and
Spencer Levels.
Do you want to talk about that one a little bit?
Yeah, the right side one. I won't tell you which one.
So, yeah, I have a problem with our own data in this one. So, if you do.
It's just science, Roth.
It's not. I don't believe it. Anyway, go watch it and you'll see why I'm upset. But the science came back. I can't argue with it, I suppose, even though I did for the last 3 months.
Yeah, it's just movie stuff, not book things.
Yeah. Yeah.
You can't measure a book.
You can't measure a book.
Sure you can.
Honest trailers.
Melted into a slurry.
Are you
in a
singing?
centrifuge.
No, I don't think
Okay.
so.
Honest trailers commentaries, Never Surrender is available to you on all the streaming things, as we've just talked about them, including Amazon and Apple TV and where else is it? Google
It popped
Play.
up
Thank
as
you.
we scrolled with the family on Amazon, and
Me
I was
too,
like,
over
"That's
the
our movie."
holiday. I
And
know.
My parents were like, "You made a movie," and I was like, "I should talk to you more."
It popped up in my feed too, and I was like, just tickled pink and delighted. And I watched our trailer.
That's great.
Which was really weird because we made it, so I knew what it was. But I was just like, it's like one of those moments, and I don't know about for you guys, but even in the screening that we did, and I was taking pictures of my credit because. I'm pretty sad, I guess is what we're talking about. Anyway, we did
I
miss
take a picture every time Spencer says something nice about something I've done. So
He has 3
That's
pictures.
really
Just of my face going.
Yeah, honestly, like that's probably I probably have more pictures.
I have
in that
2, so
case.
you're beating me.
I have 0. I don't think Spencer said a nice thing to me ever. But
It's flying all around this table.
It was an easy joke. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
you're
I
tough.
love all of you.
you're a tough audience.
Hang on, let me take my picture.
So George WB89 was somebody that we had missed in our call-outs, actually, for Never Surrender, and he wrote this. I started watching Honest Trailers and Screen Junkies in 2014, and I've learned so much about film analysis and criticism, discourse writing, and the overall craft of filmmaking. He's especially a huge fan of yours, Dan Murrell.
Well, thank you,
and
George.
he would love to know what our favorite Dan moment is. So we're going to start. Dan, what's your favorite Dan moment?
I mean, as I
Should
said,
we start or end there?
And to start, because I'm not very good at, I don't know. I like to chart. I like charting.
Well, that's not a moment.
Every
It's
week-
a series of moments.
Life is a series of moments, Roth.
That's true. I'm sinking now.
All right, I'll show my recency bias, and I'll say that I really enjoyed doing that supercut for the decade.
You took my favorite Dan moment, Dan.
Never mind.
That's fine. I'll get a new Dan moment.
Yeah, no, that was. There's been many wonderful moments, but that was a very, very fun project for me, and it's something you only get to do literally once every 10 years. And I know everyone's just like, it's not a decade supercut because it's 2010 to 2019, and there was no year 0. It's like it covered 10 years. Covered 2010 to 19. That's 10 years. Are you saying 10 years is not a decade? Should I? Whatever. Doesn't matter. Anyway, I liked it, and I hope you did.
You're not alive until you've actually been alive for 365 days. There's no 0 to 1. That's not actually baby.
I guess I should have said it was a supercut that covered January 1st, 2010 to January 1st, 2020.
You're either with Terrence Howard or you're not, and I'm not.
I'm not. Anyway, I liked that. That was a good time for me. I had fun.
Awesome. Well, that's a fun one. I didn't know we were going to pick a project. I thought the wrong thing. Not unusual, but mine is also a series of moments, and it's just a small thing that makes me really happy when we do. I got to admit, when we do, everyone comments like, "Oh, she's so excited to hear the pun," but what you don't understand is I literally am. Like, I'm so excited to hear the pun. Like, I can't wait. You should do some more puns. I miss the puns.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll start. That's my New Year's resolution. I'll do more puns when we do reviews. I'll start doing puns again.
I mean, there's some movies that we haven't really been able. They were not pun appropriate.
No, like I did not have one in the chamber for Joker. I just didn't have it in me. I don't know if 1917 is going to inspire a great
maybe not pun.
Not every movie is pun worthy, but for the ones that are, I'll try to start doing them some more.
Okay, thank you. I guess I took this opportunity to talk about our favorite Dan moment to get something I want. Spencer, would you like something?
Yes. Gosh. It's a toss-up. I love Dan in the speed round of a movie fight. I think are my genuine favorite Dan moments because you see Dan with his back against the ropes, but he just. It's like Rocky movies. Like he can't be stopped. Like he gets his second wind and he starts punching to the body, and it's just a beautiful thing to see from the depths of your mind. I don't know where you pull facts and you string them together with cogent arguments with no prep. It's truly insane.
Smoke and mirrors.
And then what's the smoke and mirrors?
It's all smoke and mirrors.
Desperation. Well, it's great. Then the other one was when you really pissed off Roth when you talked about upstate New York.
Why, Spencer?
That was really fun.
God damn it.
Dan loves being technically correct.
The best kind of correct.
God damn it, Spencer. This is not what unites the nation.
Dan Murrell and the Moral
In
Victories
these
is the name of
troubled
my band. Honorable mention to the time you discovered the joy on your face when you realized you could do a good Alf in real time.
That was a great moment.
But
Yo!
Dan and I offline takes many sandwich walks. Mm-hmm. We do lunch walks. We've taken them on good days and on bad days, and I enjoy our sandwich walks.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's sweet. That's
Which
an
are almost
IRL
automated
moment.
now because the people know what our sandwiches are, and we actually don't have to make any effort. It's nice.
Oh, that's. I could never eat the same thing that often.
I've always wanted a Cheers situation in my life, and that sandwich walks with Dan are my Cheers situation.
Yeah.
I like
pleasant.
it. That's beautiful. I also think that his pitch for Bitch I Might Be deserves a shout out. So I
Yes.
did.
Yes.
Segment 2.
Oh, wait, there's a-
No.
Oh wait, yeah, sorry. Such a big Dan Murrell fan, in fact, George is. He and his girlfriend actually did a really nice cosplay of this side of the table to Never Surrender. And we have pictures.
Wow.
Bring them out.
Whoa!
Hey! Look at that Dan and Roth cosplay.
Wait, that's me?
Oh wow, he's got the same Jaws shirt that I did. Nailed it.
Yeah.
I mean,
Multiple poses.
absolutely
Yeah.
nailed it.
She looks so happy. I want to believe that's true of my life.
That is
Often look joyful.
that one in particular. That is perfect. That is A+ cosplay. Good job.
That's amazing. Thank
Good job,
you.
Gilbert. That's incredible.
Yeah. And all that's
Yeah.
missing from the Roth one is witch's brew.
Yes.
Some kind of, like,
It was off camera. Thank you, Ryan, to reminding me to do the one thing I promised I'd remember to do in this episode.
Remember, it's not always just happy; it's also drunk. That was amazing. That's so cool. I'm glad you remembered to do that. Bright
I am
2,
glad I remembered as well.
Ryan. Bright 2 is still in the works.
Yes.
Yes. This is via Slash Film and the Television Critics Association. So David Ayer said that it's still happening. That's the whole story. I mean, it just said it's in development and we're working on it. So hopefully we'll be able to mount that up soon. He said it's a great opportunity to explore the world. So I haven't seen Bright. So this is me reading this quote, having not seen
yes.
Bright. It's a great opportunity for us to explore the world more. I think the people felt like there was a lot of doorways to explore. People were like, tell us about the dragon. Tell us about the history. It's a very rich world. And I want to drill down on that dragon some more.
I mean, the dragon appears for maybe 5 seconds.
I will say it's the only thing that made me want to see it.
Yeah.
Is him talking about this dragon.
Well,
It's an establishing shot of the Los Angeles skyline with an enormous, like, skyscraper-sized dragon flying past it that is neither mentioned nor addressed. Doesn't seem to factor really into the world. I guess they're just like large seagulls.
Why would he then specifically mention an
Well,
unimportant
I'm
dragon?
going to just credit our honest trailer with saying, why is there a dragon? Why is that Kappa centaur? No one ever mentions it. And then we pitched it's a whole thing. Then we pitched sequels to Bright that we'd be happy to write. The only one I can remember at the moment was when we photoshopped Larry David's face onto a frost giant.
Yes.
What if frost giants were Jewish? And it's like 9 realms, 1 giant, oy vey. Was the tagline. I forgot about that. So I hope that's the direction they're going.
I mean, we never really explained at what point in the history of Bright orcs just became Latinos.
No. Or the nomenclature went is orcs are the stand-ins for the historical mistreatment of black people, but Mexican people are just still Mexican people who still had the Alamo and are still like South Central gang members. It's a very muddled. It's like if Zootopia took Crank and.
You guys are only pitching me on
It's
this
pretty
movie.
bizarre. I walked
I should
out,
probably
much like
watch it.
Cats, I walked out with more questions than I had going in.
You just made a very important comparison.
Now, crossover movie. Throw the Cats
Yeah.
from Cats into the Bright universe. Now we got a stew going.
Oh, Jellicle cats don't matter today.
Yeah.
That's the opening line of the movie.
Yeah.
I don't really know what else to say about this. I just kind of want you to go on pitching new sequels.
Yeah. Well, you know, it popped like movies on Netflix do. I think that's the life cycle of a Netflix movie largely is it's white hot. It's brighter than any theatrical star, but only for a week.
Yep.
got
And
an
then it
immediate
fades
pun.
away.
Yep.
So
Never to be seen again. Yeah.
maybe Bright, maybe there's a demand out there, but it's certainly not stayed in the Brightgeist.
It's a cool premise. Like if they just want to keep making buddy cop movies in an inexplicable, undeveloped fantasy land for Netflix for $100 million, okay, I'll check it out because the barrier to entry is literally I've watched Nailed It already.
Hobgoblins are Catholics.
Yeah, exactly. What would that be like? And then you'll dip in.
I'm watching this tonight.
The last update was they were waiting for Will Smith.
Oh, is that what it is?
Oh, we were going to do it in
He's doing
2019, but
Suicide
we're
Squad.
waiting for Will Smith.
But you don't need Will Smith to
No,
do these
But it's not like we're waiting for Will Smith to like finish anything. It's just that Will Smith is busy, and we're waiting for him
to agree to do this.
Will's
sequel?
washing
have
his hair.
time
Yeah.
to do this.
Do you think that movies have such a small lifespan on things like Netflix, or appear to have a smaller lifespan on things like Netflix because of the viewing experience? They seem less important.
Probably. Yeah, I think it's magnified for television, for binge watching, where it's like, oh my God, Stranger Things season 3 came out, and that's done. And
Yeah.
I'm done with it.
Yeah.
Well, somebody
It is magnified for
We
television.
talk about it once,
and then we're done.
and then we're done.
I feel
versus-
bad.
yeah.
Someone on Twitter, and I feel bad who it was. I've completely forgotten. But they said, like, if you want to see the benefits of not doing that drop them all at once thing, like The Mandalorian dominated, like, social media for, like, 6 weeks because it was on for 6 weeks. And so
Have
every
that
week there was a
baby.
new influx of Baby Yoda and conversation. And, like, Stranger Things 3 trended for a weekend and then was gone.
So
Which was a shame.
I will say this: The Mandalorian would not have dominated the conversation like it did without the baby.
The baby was
Sure.
key.
But if you binged the baby, same thing. You know?
Yeah, Baby Yoda feels like a week.
If you binge the, because every week I was waiting for the baby
What's the
moment.
baby gonna do?
What's
Yeah.
the baby gonna do? Is it gonna drink soup? Is it gonna try to kill someone? I don't know.
But I want to find out. I have a solution. Look, okay, hear me out on the solution for Netflix to keep movies valid. Netflix provides a virtual shelf for your Netflix DVDs. Because that's what keeps my physical media relevant to me, is when I reorganize it and I go, oh, Roadhouse, I am going to watch you again. So you give them a click and drag.
Plot twist is just for
Yeah, exactly. Every movie is Roadhouse, just reorganized.
Pull out more, and I'm just Roadhouse posters, and I've been eating animals. But yeah, like a click and drag physical, like virtual physical media shelf where you can pull all your DVDs out of your Netflix, and you can just rearrange them any way you want, and you can share it with your friends, and that way you'll remember.
That's a key. I think being able. That's an interesting idea to somehow connect. I don't know what that looks like, but maybe that would be. I just think that sitting in the theater and having a movie fall into your eyeballs and
Yes.
your ear brains, which I believe are the technical terms, does make it feel more important somehow than watching it. And I'm not against streaming because I think it actually opens up a lot of opportunities for people. But it's the same thing. You're right with television. Like it just doesn't feel as connected, you know. Happened to be that Billy and I watched the second season of You, obviously, but it's not like everyone was talking about that. There's no Baby Yoda in You.
No.
Suggestion for
Or maybe
season
there
3.
is. Yeah, we just didn't see it.
Baby
although-
Yoda.
Baby Yoda. Although they do seem to be going in a very I think we should probably not do You Talk. Let's move on to the BAFTAs. The BAFTA noms came out. Best film nominations are not super surprising. 1917, which is great. The Irishman, Joker, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and Parasite. Original screenplay, Booksmart, Knives Out, Marriage Story, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and Parasite. Here's a thing to pull out. 1917, which I think we both highly recommend that you see, and not only see it, definitely do see it in theaters. We admitted that Dan forced that on me, and he was right. But Joker with 11 nominations.
The British love the Joker.
They do.
Historically,
yes. They like Joker stuff.
Yeah.
Thoughts on?
It's a very zeitgeisty movie. It's you see that a lot. A lot of times the leader in nominations for different awards is either the movie that's the front runner in everyone, which I don't think there's truly a front runner. I really don't. I could see any of those films
For
winning.
the BAFTAs?
For the BAFTAs or
No, it's
any.
Menda. It's 1917.
I don't know. We'll see. Maybe.
I will put money on it.
I could see
today.
any of those movies winning. But I think it.
Let's make a bet.
A
You
lot
want
of
to?
time.
right.
What that 1917
Take the
is-
field?
Yeah.
Take the field, Dan.
against 1917.
That's a good bet.
Yeah, I'd take the field against 1917. Although it is the BAFTAs and Sam Mendes is British and they like British. Yeah, no. If it was the BAFTAs, I would.
Exactly.
Talk to me when the Oscar nominations come out next week.
But it was because it was the BAFTAs that I am so sure.
I didn't think about the Sam Mendes factor.
Because
but
the British, if there's anything they love as much as Joker, it's the British.
But a lot of times it's a movie that captures the zeitgeist, gets a lot of nominations because it is so culturally significant. I think that Black Panther, for example, like it won several awards, but it was nominated for a lot more. And I think it was because it was a very culturally relevant movie that awards voters enjoyed, that they liked, that they wanted to recognize. And I think you're seeing that with Joker now. I think that it's obviously acting and whatnot. I think it has probably a better shot in a lot of these categories than Black Panther did. But I think it's also just because it was a very impactful film.
It would be weird if it wasn't nominated a lot, like across the board. It dominated conversations so heavily. Like there were SWAT trucks, like outside of movie theaters, so that you could safely go see the Joker. It'd be weird if. Like,
do you remember that in New York?
I do. It was crazy.
There was a theater. We were in New York for Comic-Con, and that's the weekend that the Joker opened. And there was a theater right across the street from our hotel that had literally SWAT teams stationed outside of it.
It's ridiculous.
Wow. Because it was the Joker.
But yeah, I agree though. Just such like a culturally impactful thing. It would be weird if, like, come award season, there was just a fart in the wind for the Joker. Like,
to get 11 nominations, you got to kind of transcend
the Joaquin.
best actor, screenplay, director. Like, you got to be going into the craft stuff.
Score, makeup, cinematography, art direction.
To be fair, the cinematography is great.
Yeah, and the score is fantastic.
yeah.
The make, I mean, that's the other thing.
They are
It is a
deserved.
very well-made film.
Dare dance choreography.
Joaquin, I think, is incredible, and I do, one of the questions here is, do we think that some films are being lost in the mix? I do. I think a number of films are being lost in the mix, as inevitably happens when you get so reductive. But the big ones for me this year that I think will really be lost, because people will talk about Portrait of a Lady on Fire. Although I think that Les Miserables, will it count for 2019 or 2020?
2019, Les Miserables is France's. Portrait of a Lady on Fire was not even submitted to the Oscars for Best International Film. Les Miserables is their official entry for France. So Portrait of a Lady on Fire is not eligible for any Oscar nominations, but it's eligible for other things, which is why I actually think for the BAFTAs, I think Portrait of a Lady on Fire is nominated and Les Miserables is not.
Yeah.
They were both nominated at the Golden Globes. So, yeah.
Interesting. So, I mean, I do think some things will be lost in the mix. The films that I worry about that will be completely lost are truly small films like Waves.
Honey Boy.
Well,
Little
that's
Women.
got at least Shia attached to it, and Little Women has stars attached to it. I think Waves for sure I think is going to end up at my top 10 of the year. I really love this movie. Not everyone would feel that way about it necessarily, but it's movies like that just don't get. They really go unnoticed, and they get lost in kind of the melee and the mix of the Joker, that's nothing against the Joker. It's just.
But even bigger movies like Ford versus Ferrari, Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood, movies that I think in a year where the competition was not as uniformly intimidating as it is this year, probably would have been nominated, aren't going to be, because I think it is a remarkably difficult year.
Well, this is why they expanded to 10 films, right? Or is it 12?
The Oscars, it's up to 10.
10.
But it depends on certain percentages. It's not guaranteed to be 10, but it can be up to 10 films.
So I'm going to take a quick moment and recommend a film that's not going to be in like the top 10 movies of the year. It's certainly not going to be for awards contention, but it is. If you like movies, if you like horror movies in particular, and if you ever watched kind of B-level horror movies as a kid, like I did all the time with my best friend Lisa, Shanadilia Araka.
Sorry. Is she from a storybook?
That's her real name. Although she was kind of a pathological liar, so I know it was at least Lisa Araka. I'm not sure about Shanadilia.
Don't dox your friends. You should know that much.
Who lived at
What street did she grow up on? What was her birthday? What was her mother's name?
She's a Pisces. So in any event, there's this movie called One Cut of the Dead. And unfortunately, I don't know if you can watch it anywhere but Shudder, but it's so great. It is One Cut of the Dead. And it is such a great look at deconstructing how a B-level horror movie is made. It's more of a comedy than a horror movie. It's riffing on horror movies, but it's also riffing on filmmaking in general. It is really smart, really clever filmmaking. Just incredibly constructed. If you want to look at, I wish I had that kind of brain to be able to construct something this way. I cannot recommend this movie as a fun movie enough. Again, won't end up in a top 10, which is why I think I'm taking this opportunity to hijack our discussion and recommend this weird horror movie on Shudder. One Cut of the Dead. It's really, really, really good. So, anything else that's being overlooked we should talk about?
We'll see what plenty of the nominees come out.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a very paltry list. We could add.
It is a paltry list.
10 films that should be
easily
on top of that.
Obvious. What's your favorite so far this year?
It's Uncut Gems, Roth. Yeah, come on.
Oh, you said that the other day.
Carrie Chief's gonna get the opening tip. Gonna make Uncut Gems Best Picture.
Do you know what my favorite part of Uncut Gems is?
What?
This is a real statement. I'm sorry, I shouldn't say that to you. This is a real thing. There's a relationship in the. I don't want to spoil anything, but there's a relationship in the movie. So the movie starts, and there's this very antagonistic relationship between Adam Sandler and this other guy. And at a certain point, about a quarter of the way in, it's revealed that they have a very intimate connection, and it's never explained, but you just are left thinking, what happened to bring them to this point? That this relationship's so deteriorated. And I just think it's such a smart move on the part of the Safdie brothers, and it's such great storytelling because they trust the audience enough to run with that, and their task is just to immerse them in that world the same way the character is.
Oh, yeah, there's no hand-holding. There's
no hand-holding
right
at all.
Yeah.
But God, the sound design.
Yeah.
It's like Gitmo level torture, right? Like, God, if you were sensitive at all. Dan, what's your favorite so far? Well, we'll do that
Yeah, I don't want to give away
no
the
spoilers.
Yeah, no spoilers.
Do you have one that's like on the list but you want to mention right now? Like I just cheated and did?
You know, I need to sit down, and there's really not a lot that's out of contention right now that I really like, so I have to sit down and figure out. So I'm going to say no, because I don't want to say something's not on my list and then I put it together and I'm like, you know what, that needs to be on my list. So
All right.
I don't have one right now.
I appreciate your purity.
Thank you.
And your respect for the game. I have not seen Uncut Gems in 1917 yet. So barring those, The Farewell is probably my favorite movie of 2019.
All right. Well, we did a show, and I think that's what we had to get done today.
That's
true.
Going home.
All right.
See you
Thanks,
guys later.
Like, subscribe, enjoy us, I hope. Is anybody left? We're still here.
Yeah.
One
Goodbye.
Cut of the Dead. It's seriously good. It's on Shudder, if you have Shudder.